Hello, welcome back. I'm back here with EJK, and we're going to be talking a little bit about kind of how you feel about yourself right now in the community. Because, I've got to say, EJK, you're actually a big inspiration to me for a lot of just kind of the mentality you have toward approaching your involvement with the community. A lot of people, I've kind of mentioned this before, will know you through the GIFs that you create and your involvement with, the tutorials that you make and everything. And I've got to say, it's refreshing to see a player or just anybody, just a person that's getting involved with the community, but just through the game, not through, he said, she said this on Twitter or something. So, I mean, is that something that you really actively try to do, is just to try and push kind of your enjoyment for the game over all these kind of external factors?
That's one part of it, yeah. Another part of it I see is doing community service. Like in high school, you know how you have to do volunteer work and then you put it on your resume.
Hmm.
It's kind of similar to that, except I can't put it on my resume. And I do it just to help other people
Hmm.
and just to like contribute to the community, really.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit more about like these tutorial videos that you've done, because I know you were actually you had mentioned that you were doing them last time you were on Breaking Out, but it seems like you've come a long way in terms of how you're formatting things, what kind of things you're going over, and even just the attention that you're getting for them.
Well, what I focus on are interesting macro games that people might watch from, let's say, like Pro League or the SSL or something like that, and they might be like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to try to do that on ladder." And so I make a video about it, trying to explain the different points of what you like, the different goals that the build has, so that you can hopefully watch the video and then go on ladder and then do it and then see some results.
Yeah. And I love the breakdown that you do on some of them. Like, I think one of my favorite ones is actually from a while ago, where you talked about, I'm trying to remember, it was like maybe Maru or some other Terran player, and you discussed the Hellion movement and how they would react to what their opponent was doing, the like positioning that they would move their Hellions in, and kind of like second to second breakdown of here's what they see, here's the move and the angle that they move their Hellions in, and here's why this is a really smart decision, or here's why this isn't going to work out quite as well. And it was like a very interesting, kind of eye-opening experience for me, where I saw like, oh, these are kind of the things that you don't think about as much unless you're obviously like one of those top level players. So really, really actually would recommend, just as a side note, to anyone that's interested, to go check those out. And really quickly, where can people catch that? Where can people find those videos?
Just my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/coreejk. Same. It's spelled the same as my Reddit name.
Mm-hmm. All right, so go check that out, guys. You'll hear that again a little bit later, and you should probably find links to the chat and that for that at the end of the episode. But moving on really quickly, I just want to actually say, again, you've been around in the scene for a little bit, and what do you think has been like the hardest thing in making a name for yourself in the scene?
Just the fact that it's such a dead game. It's yeah, like you don't really get, unless you're a very top player, you're not gonna. It's almost unrealistic. There are some exceptions. Cough winter, cough cough. But even he had to work very hard for a very long time to achieve the status that he has now. And it's just, I think there aren't that many people that watch the game compared to other games, so that it's I don't even consider, I'm not even trying to break out. I just play for the fun of it and because
Mhm.
it's a great game.
So when you say that you're not trying to break out, is it just that you're not actively trying to seek the attention that comes with breaking out, or you're not actively trying to become one of, say, the best players out there?
I'm not actively trying to get the attention that
Hmm.
comes with breaking out
Hmm.
and like all the drama that comes around with it.
So mostly
I
just
like,
interested in performance and like results, then, not so much, the
yeah,
notoriety and the fame behind it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's actually a really refreshing thing to hear about. And you know, one quick question before we move on, because I asked this for your Terran versus Terran, Terran versus Zerg, Terran versus Protoss, but want to ask this in a more general sense. What do you feel is kind of your biggest strength and your biggest weakness, more as a person than just in your gameplay?
let me think about that for a sec. I think my biggest strength is my adversity and ability to adapt. My biggest weakness is that I'm not really good at one particular thing. It's more of a culmination of hard work and just like yeah, just hard work and discipline rather than actually being extremely talented at anything.
And I really like the way that you kind of put that because it sounds like you are a hard worker. I mean, you've mentioned producing content and like you're kind of showing your love for the game through making videos and everything. And it kind of just goes to show like you aren't one of those just naturally gifted at StarCraft kind of players or anything. It's not like that. You obviously worked very hard to get to where you are. You're continuing to produce that kind of content around the game because not only do you enjoy it, but you're hardworking at it.
It's mostly like my main motivation behind it though is just to share how great of a game StarCraft is. And like if you're missing a really cool thing that the commentators aren't saying anything about or that you might not even recognize it exists before someone points it out to you, then you're not really getting the full like StarCraft kind of, what am I looking for? The whole like shebang,
The big picture
whole
kind of thing.
experience. Yeah, you're missing out. So I'm just trying to help the people that are missing out to see the little things in the game and appreciate it even more.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing some of those things that you're trying to show us as you are actually about to show us the awesome game of the day. Very much looking forward to that one. We'll see you guys in just a second with the awesome game. Welcome everyone to the awesome game of the day! I'm joined here once again by the one and only Zombie Grub, and we're going to be jumping into the awesome game as we spawn up here on top of the red Protoss player. It's going to be the same player from the last... I had to do a double take, guys. I'm not going to lie. I had to look at the minimap and I was like, wait a second. Protoss player. Is this... Did I load up the wrong replay? No, it is going to be Imhotep one more time.
Okay. Well, on the bottom right, as the blue Terran, it's going to be EJK.
It's the same map, Zombie Grub. It's the same matchup and the same player. And I had to think about it. I was like, wait a second. No, EJK was on the top right in the last game.
I don't blame you, man. I had to take a double take too. I was like, what's that? Oh, okay. Alrighty then.
All right. Well, that's actually kind of cool. I'll have to ask EJK later on during the analysis segment if this was like custom practice games versus a friend or if this is like actually ladder games. I actually just kind of went under the assumption it was ladder games, but maybe it was kind of a fun lobby games versus a friend.
Well, then his friend's kind of salty about Marines.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot about. Okay, maybe this is like the rematch. Who knows? Actually, now I'm just like waiting. Is like it actually turns out that first game we casted was actually the like second game they played. This is the first game, and EJK is about to like 6 racks all in his opponent, or like, and that's what this is like the build up. This is like the first sighting of the Marine Imba.
That's that would be pretty funny. 6 racks. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Should play team games with me more often.
Hey, well, cannon rushes. Fear Dragon, look for the cannons.
Oh my god. Alright, well, it looks like we're not going to be seeing any cannon rushes in this game, thank god, because I certainly would have missed them by now. But Imhotep going for 1 gas geyser doesn't look like he's going to be doing anything quite as cheesy as he did in that other game. Last game, in case you forgot, or maybe you just didn't catch it, he actually went for the Proxy Oracle build, and this game, we're seeing EJK going for the same build, actually, going for the CC first.
Yeah. So in this way, I wouldn't be surprised if that last game was the second game. So, you know, after you see someone who goes 14cc versus your Protoss, I don't know, maybe I'm old-fashioned. Maybe some of the newer kids or whatever are like 14cc versus Protoss, no big deal. People do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I remember a time where you just did not do that. Like, Why would you ever? But now it's totally okay. Most people are playing macro games anyways. In fact, with how big the maps have gotten, throwing the Zealot and the Stalker out at them, the commander's
Yeah.
already done, and you feel kind of useless anyways. But I still get that like angry feeling that someone got away with being so greedy. So of course, the next game, yeah, open up like a proxy oracle.
Yeah, it's sort of funny. Like, I actually see almost the same sort of like mental adjustment that people had over time in PvZ with the with 3 hatch before pool. Players sometimes, I feel like they just kind of say like, oh man, oh shoot, you got a 3 hatch before pull off, and I went for a gateway expand. Oh well, and they just kind of like roll with it. They don't go for like a big 4 gate all in or like a big amount of aggression. They just kind of like say, oh okay, I'll just try and take my third a little bit earlier and balance it out. And yeah, I definitely see like it's like sort of the same adjustment that happened with like CC first or like Nexus first, I think sometimes.
Yeah. I get angry at Zerg too, so.
I think everyone gets angry with Zergs are greedy.
Yo, I don't ever have 14 CC, so no one like blind counter me or anything like that. So I never see a Zerg that like 3 hatches, and I'm always mad about it. You know, they 3 hatched one time, and I got like a Reaper. I got 2 Reapers, and then 3 Reapers, and I was like, that's such a good day that day.
Oh my god, I'm like the opposite. I'm like on the similar end of that, where I'm like the Protoss player, PvZ, and I'll see a 3 hatch before pool, and you're like, oh, you rolled against the wrong Protoss. I'm still Forge fast expanding, Forge first every game, and then they're just like, who does this still? Why isn't this a gateway expand?
Oh, I love that. No, I gotta learn how to 4-gate, like 1-gas 4-gate, because when I do play Protoss and that happens, I get so angry. Like, seriously, I just be like, I got a 2nd gas, but you know what? I'm not gonna mine from it. Take this.
Oh, that's absolutely brutal.
Ooh, speaking of all-ins, maybe setting up for something here? I don't know. The pylon was just in a weird position, and the gateways are kind of hidden back there.
Yeah, that is sort of interesting. I was thinking like maybe, because I wanted to see what was being made from this robotics facility. We ended up seeing like an observer made, a 2nd observer on the way, which kind of makes me think, okay, probably not an all-in, but I was thinking if he was making an immortal, this could have been like an old school immortal bus. I've seen a couple of those actually lately.
Yeah, they've kind of come back into play. You know, there are some builds just like fall out of fashion. So the Immortal Bust, also I remember the 4-gate, well actually just a 3 or 4-gate versus the Terran. They still exist versus versus Zerg, of course. But versus Terran they kind of fell off, but they can be surprisingly effective. 1 bunker won't hold if they're not expecting it. And the fact is, EJK did not get a Reaper again. He actually had been going, you know, pretty greedy in a lot of these games that we've cast today. Although I like that he scans because he didn't get that Reaper. I do like that. Some people are way too greedy about it. But anyways, that, you know, if you don't see a Reaper, that can tell some people, like, oh, I was gonna go greedy, but let me just put down like a Stargate really quickly or something like that.
Yeah, and that also kind of makes me wonder, because we do have the Protoss player with the Observer in the main base of EJK, and oh, actually a great spot over there from EJK. Kills off the Observer, and that's actually going to be a little bit annoying. There is actually going to be, there's already 3 observers out on the map though, so I don't think it's going to be the biggest deal. But yeah, how exactly would, like, do you react as a Protoss player when you end up seeing like the fast CC first? It looks like right now we end up just kind of seeing relatively fast tech up to Colossus with like kind of your own style of greed, going for double Forge and fast Colossus.
It's certainly a good move. You could have tried getting your own very fast 3rd base, hoping that the mothership or the Nexus was done to use that mothership cannon. Okay, there is a mothership core. But that's always a risk. They're gonna have a very strong push out if they're willing to push out, basically, and obviously EJK is. He doesn't have to wait for medevacs to do this, and this is a very strong force.
Yeah, first Colossus is not out yet either, and I think EJK, I mean, he's got the Marauders. They're going to be able to tank up a lot of those shots from the Photon Overcharge. And we're already kind of seeing a little bit of that. No units have really been killed over here for EJK. Only finally now 2 units go down, but Photon Overcharge is got to do a little bit more than this, I think.
Yeah. That was a pretty terrible Zealot warping on the left side there. Kind of loses them for free.
I like those pylons, actually, stopping the forces from like moving in from the backside. I guess the Colossus is out, but so it doesn't really matter too much.
No, not now, but it would have been important before. But still lost, you know, a few units here and there. That was a bit unnecessary. Now we have, oh, there's so many gateways. There's a lot of gateways. It's a 2-base Colossus all in, but it has 4 double forges behind it. So that's what's confusing, right? And that's why EJK is kind of panicking, I guess. Like, there's 7 gateways, and he must have seen something. No, I only saw 1 gateway. I don't know, but he was scared, I guess, because the Protoss army was moving out at all, that he immediately switches over to building Vikings. Usually you want 4 medevacs bare minimum before you start Viking production. I mean, some people have been going for much higher counts of medevacs and going very drop heavy. And as you can see, he goes back into it, realizing that the Protoss army has stopped attacking.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how this is going to actually end up going. Widowmine manages to burrow actually on the other side of the brush. He burrows right on top of the brush and kills off the Zealot, just kind of out of the vision range of it. Was able to seize that zone like a watchtower. Kind of a nice little micro maneuver, but EJK going for the push out. This is really weird because it's kind of like you were saying, like he was building bunkers before. He kind of was like going up for the really fast Vikings, but now he's looking to maybe get a bit aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, he has certainly a big enough army that even if he didn't have the Vikings, you can poke in and get out in most situations. Even if they have Blink, you're usually able to do that, which, by the way, our Imhotep does not. But you certainly want to be that Terran that's at least out on the map to scare them a little bit, even if you aren't planning on really doing anything yourself. But it seems like we're going to have a Doom drop. Now, Imhotep does have really good observer coverage. In fact, going up to as many as 5 observers might just be overkill. 3 usually does the job, and 1 can kind of, be taken back if you need it for Widow Mines.
Yeah, that's actually observer number 7 that popped out earlier, and this is observer number 8 that's popped out total, because he's lost 2 observers, and he's up to 6 now.
Oh, okay.
Which is, as you're saying, like, it's kind of crazy. He has 3 Colossus, which actually is, like, it's a kind of a money number for a lot of Protoss players, but it's a money number when you tech up to Templar Archives and get up High Templars behind it. He's not really doing that, and I feel like this may start to get a little bit scary, but EJK dropping in the natural, we'll see how much damage he can do.
Okay, I thought he was gonna go towards the 3rd and get a pretty quick kill on that one, but he's just sandwiching the army in the naturals. Colossus are not expecting that. Oh, damn, those Widow Mines could have been so much better.
Yeah, Widow Mines in the natural expansion almost getting some beautiful hits off, and EJK kills off a lot of the Colossus. I mean, there's only 1 really left over at this point, but I don't know if 10 workers go down, not really worth it just yet, but if he kills off this 3rd, that might be worth it.
Yeah, that was very, I don't want to call it sloppy, because he was obviously paying attention, he did it on purpose.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much I liked it. He goes back in again, double drops.
Yeah, I like that he's starting. Actually, you know what? I'm really starting to like this, because you think about what he's doing right now. The Protoss player, he has a lot of the kind of power units that are still coming out. He still has those Colossus. He has sort of like these semi-immobile Zealots. But he's getting kind of split up, just because even if he could defend against all of EJK's units together, he's having a lot of trouble defending against them in all the different locations. And again, like even the Stalkers, I mean, they do finally have Blink now, but they just aren't in a high enough number to really deal with the medevac drops. There's only 2 of them.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking, like, this went well for EJK, mostly because he got so many, like, those 2 Colossus almost for free. And then there was most of the gateway units he had to deal with afterwards. But imagine if those 2 Colossus saw that coming because he had an observer out, which I find it funny he did not, because he has, like, 5 observers. And they just moved back into the mineral line. And then suddenly that attack doesn't look so good, now you're down 20 supply, and they still have 4 Colossus. Then you're in trouble. Luckily for EJK, he's looking pretty strong. One thing, of course, that is bad is that the upgrades are amazing for the Protoss player, as Double Forge has been chronoed this entire time.
Oh, yeah. That is definitely going to be a big frustration. This is one of the most important matchups for upgrades. And when there's a chance with Chrono Boost going down, your opponent could have 3-3 finished up before you have 2-2. Well, let's just say that's less than ideal.
Yeah. Usually it's like when 3-3 hits, it's still at a pretty late time, despite being Double Forge and, chronoed all the way. I would expect, like, High Templars or a mass amount of charge lots, but in fact, charge isn't done yet. There really isn't that massive an army. It's mostly about these 4 Colossus really being the big dogs here.
Oh, I'm actually surprised EJK. Maybe he's anticipating that there could have been more Stalkers behind this, but I almost feel like he could have dropped over there in the main base. This is a very interesting drop, and he's going to lose all these units in the drop, but he actually targets down the Nexus with the rest of his forces. He's going to continue to engage over here. I guess he sees that the Colossus are relatively open.
Again, this, like, this gave away so many units, but it's just barely working out.
You know what I really feel like this is actually... I'm really glad that he submitted this game, because the other game that he showed where he held off like the proxy oracle harassment, that was a really cool game. This game I think is really showing kind of what he was talking about before, where sometimes he gets like that nice little advantage, and then he, like a very, very small advantage, and he feels like he needs to press the advantage. And he ends up overcommitting to this kind of stuff. So like, it's a very questionable decision. Did he overcommit? It's sort of hard to say right now.
I was thinking when he said that more like, oh, I push on a creep, you know, something that seems so small but is a big deal. But these doom drops, I don't know, man. Like, you gotta decide to do the doom drop, actually pick up an all 4 medevacs. You gotta decide to go ahead and like actually drop on top of that huge army. They're very like panicky, but luckily they are working out.
Yeah. And right now, we end up seeing that Imhotep kind of feel like he has to do some damage over here, because again, his 3rd expansion did get killed off. It's only halfway done right now. He wants to at least deny some mining from EJK. But EJK is starting to get up to a pretty decent Viking count. Actually, this is a nice maneuver from the Protoss player, I'd say. If he was taking up to High Templar, I'd really like this maneuver, where he's not producing any more Colossus. EJK could be overcommitting to that, but here we end up seeing a big engagement.
Yeah. The Colossus really didn't get the greatest shots off on the army. The Zealots, a lot of them died just being pretty much like dilly-dallying, not actually connecting with that charge. And there are so many Blink Stalkers that end up not being that useful.
Yeah. GG gets called as the Protoss player is going to tap out, realizing, you know, when you lose all of those power units and you stop Colossus production behind it and you don't have a Templar Archives, it's pretty hard to defend against the counter swing, so he goes ahead and taps out. But a very interesting Terran versus Protoss there. I don't know. To me, it really did feel like EJK kind of almost like pulling Polt-esque decisions of like, I'm just going to focus this down the Nexus, or like, I'm just going to push it over here and focus on your Colossus. Like, very committed bits of aggression, if you want to call it that.
Sure. But usually those committals are because like an army's not in position. You know,
Yeah.
It's one thing to like commit thinking the army's entirely out of position and it's actually just at the natural. It's another to commit on top of the army that is there.
Yeah. It's like, I almost want to say like, it's like big commitments based off of very, very small things. Like, for example, you think about like the engagement at the natural expansion. There were the Colossus that weren't necessarily like super out of position or something, but they were like very, very slightly like in a not the greatest position, where like maybe they, as you mentioned before, like they needed to back up to the back of the natural expansion mineral line or something, like after that drop had been cleaned up. So like maybe it's like those kind of small tells that he's pouncing on. I'm actually really curious, and you know what? One of the best ways you can find out about this stuff, guys, is just go ask the player himself. But unfortunately, we will not. Wow, I'm gonna edit that part out. I just realized there's no analysis segment. This is not the Protoss versus Terran. Okay. I'm gonna pretend like that didn't get said. I'm gonna edit that out. All right, 1 second.
Editing room. Fantastic.
Oh man, it's beautiful. All right, guys, we're gonna be jumping back to EJK with the next interview segment. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.